Hey everyone, welcome in. So before I continue, quick warning, there will be spoilers in this video for the recent Pixar film Lightyear. You have been warned. So the movie Lightyear has come out recently, and it sure threw a lot of curveballs at us in regards to the backstory of the character of Buzz Lightyear that we knew. Now this is the story of the movie that inspired Andy, that made him fall in love with the character of Buzz Lightyear. And so this tells us, essentially, where this character, this toy, Buzz Lightyear, came from, what he was based on. And for me personally, there was a lot of changes here that I didn't expect. Based on watching the Toy Story films and knowing about the character, there's a lot of areas that I didn't expect them to go that direction with this movie. But none of them were quite as drastic as the realization that evil Emperor Zurg was actually Buzz Lightyear himself come back from the future. The implications of this are wild. But I can't help but wonder, what would have happened if evil Emperor Buzz had won? If when Buzz Lightyear, the one that we know, the young one, started doing battle with his nemesis self, when our Buzz Lightyear did battle with his nemesis self, if he had been the one to fall and the older Buzz had gotten the crystal and made it back in time to complete his mission, what would have happened to Buzz's new friends? Would Izzy have vanished? Would the whole timeline have collapsed and disappeared? Well, today I'm going to explore just that.
To infinity and beyond!
So there are three questions that I would like to try and answer to reach this conclusion. The first one, how does time travel work in cinema? Well, I could make hours-long video talking about this topic because there are so many different unique ways that different movies and TV shows have chosen to address this subject. But instead of going into each individual topic, I've kind of grouped them into three general ideas that most movies tend to fall into. So the first of these topics is the idea of a fixed timeline. So this is the thought process that any changes that you make when you go back in time, those are already accounted for. So anything that you do always happened that way, and your future self either just didn't know about it, didn't realize it was you, or just for some reason it just got lost to time and he just overlooked it. This shows up in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, where Harry gets saved by himself, but he doesn't know it's himself until he goes back in time and saves himself. The fixed timeline always happens the way it currently is, and nothing you do can change it. The second option is the idea of the changeable timeline. So we see this in Back to the Future, where Marty goes back in time and accidentally changes the whole course of history and makes it so that his parents don't meet, and it risks him disappearing completely from the timeline if he can't fix it. So in this concept, you go back and you make a change to the timeline, that change is then going to catch up with you. And it's going to just correct the timeline, correct itself by getting rid of whatever got changed. And the third general topic of time travel, the third type that seems to be out there, is the idea of multiple timelines, or a multiverse. We see this in Avengers Endgame, where the heroes go back to an earlier point in history, but it's a different timeline that they're experiencing. And Hulk tells us about this. When you go back in time, that time becomes your future. That past becomes your future. And you can't change your own future. You're changing someone else's. So the whole concept here is that the changes they make aren't affecting them at all. Their timeline always stays the same. What they're changing is someone else's timeline. So we then have different layers of time going across, stacking on top of each other. And each one impacts the other one, or a different one, each time someone goes back. So these are the three generalizations in regards to how time works in cinema. So that brings us to question number 2. which one applies in Lightyear? Well, I think the first one we can narrow out pretty quickly. The idea of a fixed timeline, we know that it's not a fixed timeline because when older Buzz comes back, the robots arrive and it prevents younger Buzz from getting apprehended. Well, we know older Buzz got apprehended, therefore things aren't continuing to run the exact same way. That fixed timeline is broken. So that one's not an option. Option number 2, the changeable timeline. Well, this idea is that if things are changed, then the items that would have been changed in the future just disappear or cease to exist the way they were. I don't think that this is an option either. Older Buzz goes back and stops younger Buzz from getting arrested. The thing is that being arrested by Mr. Burnside, by Sergeant Burnside, that's what creates older Buzz. That's what makes older Buzz decide to escape, to fly off into the future, to find that technology, figure out a way to go back to complete his mission. None of that happens in this new younger Buzz timeline. If it was a changeable timeline, then older Buzz going back and stopping younger Buzz from being arrested, from that course of events happening, well, it would have caused older Buzz to disappear, or at least for his personality to change drastically. So I don't think it's a changeable timeline. This leaves us with option number 3, the idea of multiple timelines, and this one does work. Older Buzz, in his timeline, he got arrested, but he fled. He got his army, and then he went back in time. Well, the thing is, his time would have continued going forward without him. And instead, he is now in a different timeline. And he's allowed to remain there because he's not impacted himself directly. The changes he has made for younger Buzz applies to younger Buzz in younger Buzz's timeline. So any changes he makes affects that timeline alone. So there we have it. We have our conclusion as to which timeline fits. So that brings us to question number 3. What is the impact on Buzz Lightyear, young Buzz Lightyear, and his friends? And what would happen if evil Emperor Buzz had gotten his way and gone back in time once more to complete his mission? Well, the thing is, if going back in time brings you to a different timeline, well, then that would happen once more. When evil Emperor Buzz goes back in time to complete his mission, he's going to go back in time to a timeline that's separate from the young Buzz and the characters that we know from that timeline. The result being, old Buzz would have gone back, completed his mission for a completely different group of people. There would be their own young Buzz first setting out to figure out how to get everyone home. And so that Buzz and that whole group would then make it home or wherever they go, but they would be saved by older Buzz. But the result on younger Buzz's timeline would just be that older Buzz would disappear with that crystal. He would vanish from their sight. Him and his robot army would just leave. They would travel back in time to somewhere completely different. The result would be the timeline left behind would continue on as it already is. The result is that young Buzz, his fears would not come to be. His new friends would not disappear. They would not cease to exist. Instead, his new friends from another timeline would never come to be. But his friends would remain. So that's what I believe would happen if Buzz, old Buzz, Emperor Buzz, whatever we want to call him, if he went back in time and did complete his mission, that's what I believe would happen to these characters. But that brings up a bonus question. What would old Buzz have found if he had completed his mission and gotten everyone home? Now, it's an interesting topic in the movie that they seem almost surprised by the idea of time dilation. When Buzz first goes off for a 4-minute mission, he arrives back and 4 years have passed. and everyone seems kind of shocked. The thing is, they have been traveling through space up until that point at hyperspeed. They've already been traveling for a long distance, out exploring new worlds. So if old Buzz had gone back and rescued the crew and they all turned back and headed straight back to Earth, what would happen? Earth probably wouldn't even be there anymore. There would be no home for them to return to because that same time dilation would apply for them, but to a much greater extent. If a 4-minute trip turns into 4 years at less than hyperspeed, imagine how much time has passed on Earth with how long their ship had been traveling at the start of the movie. The result being getting everyone home would show that it's not the home that they thought. And in the end, in a way, old Buzz is doomed to failure, as there may not be a home to return to. So there we have it. That's my theory as to what would happen if evil Emperor Zurg had successfully snatched up the crystal and gone back in time to complete his mission. What do you think? Do you think that's how it would have happened? Do you think there's another form of time travel out there that I'm overlooking that maybe fits this story better? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you like this video, as always, please hit that thumbs up button to say that you like it. Subscribe to the video if you want to learn more about our theories and see more of our Marvel discussions, which happen we release every Friday. Then yeah, hit like, subscribe to our channel, leave comments, and thanks for watching.